Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. It's a wonderful rainy day where I am. Well, so I've been watching Breaking Bad. Um, wow. I started watching on Tuesday, and it's now Tuesday of last week, and I'm almost done with the first part of the fifth season. So, yay for that. And I want to relate this to video games, and I will. Don't worry. But Breaking Bad is a great series for me for one particular reason. Everything else about it is really great, but one thing really stands out to me, and it's that it's the first time I've ever watched a television show, and this could also apply to movies because movies are just long form, short form television shows. It takes explanation. That it's the only one that doesn't feel like they're acting. It feels like they're people. Which is interesting to say, but whenever I watch a television show or watch a movie, it feels like, oh, these are actors reading a script and going through the motions of acting, which, is fine and serviceable. But as I watch Breaking Bad, I can't help but go, this is a real story going on. I mean, honestly, if you took away the meth, it's really just a guy dealing with family issues. But a very good look at it. But that's all I have to say about that. And when you think about how successful the show's gotten, and how big the budget's gotten, it's just managed to get better. But hasn't that a theory applied to video games? Right? As budgets go up, quality goes up. Well, to a point, sure, but budget's nice. It gives you a lot to work with, gives you nice advertising, all that sort of stuff, but I think that time is more of an issue. That companies aren't willing to spend more time making a game. Now, that's not to say that some companies don't spend enough time. There are certainly games that, given enough time, and combined with a good enough budget, have become amazing. You just look at Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean, considering how old the hardware is, it still manages to do so much because it had over $200 million spent on making the bloody thing. Of course, it's going to have some awesomeness to it that is standout in a way. But recently, someone from Volition, one of the companies that survived the bankruptcy of THQ, came out and said that $100 million budgets and $60 titles are not good for the industry. They have this toxicity to it in the sense that it forces stagnation in order to sell to as many people as possible and get as many copies out there so you can recoup that $100 million budget. Which is true. It's something that we've seen before where a game has a big budget, but it requires them to sell so much. You look at the Tomb Raider this year. In order to make back the money that Squeenix wanted to have on it, it needed to be one of the top-selling games of the console generation. That's not... That's kind of hard to think about, all things considered. It sort of boggles the mind, in fact, that a company, even though this game sold 3 million copies in like the first month, was still considered a failure in terms of not reaching sales expectations, which at a point you have to consider what was the budget, what were their sales expectations. And admittedly, when you look at the couple games that Square Enix has published over the past few months, you look at obviously Tomb Raider, you look at Hitman Absolution, you look at Sleeping Dogs, I said Watch Dogs, it's a completely different game. Maybe not, we don't know. Those games all were pinnacles of something. They were really good PC versions. They had really good, well-optimized PC versions. Now, you might be asking, how does this fit into budget? Optimization. Optimization takes cash. In order for those games to run on as many machines as they could have run on, that takes some money. And I know people might immediately go, well, why? Why are you attributing this? That's not the only thing. Marketing. God, God, I couldn't not see a Tomb Raider ad wherever I went for a while. It was despicable, honestly. And it's kind of unfortunate that we've gotten to an era where, I can't go somewhere without seeing an ad for a game when sometimes I'd rather not. It's not that I don't mind advertisements, it's just that it seems weird. It's just that you can't not blame something you're not willing to admit exists, and when you create really well optimized and, really good high spec and low spec versions of a game, that takes money and time, but that's not the only thing. You also have engine investments, and the engines that those three games run on were proprietary developed engines. They were all really good, really effective engines, but I think that the $60 price point is something that we are going to go away from. And I do hope we do that, because I don't mind paying $60 if I have the money, but, I'd rather buy something on a sale. And it seems like, at least from Microsoft's end, we don't know about Sony yet, they are focusing on having a really good digital shopping front where they're probably going to have very Steam-like sales. We saw it earlier this year where they had a huge week where they just sold stuff for like 75%, and these are big games that you don't normally get discounts on for a console unless it's a used game, which is ultimately what developers want. They'd rather somebody pay a reduced price, but they see the money, than somebody pay a reduced price and they see none of it. That's why Steam sales have become so prevalent, and why companies like Steam so much. But I suppose the question is, where do we adjust the budget and copies sold in order to make sure that companies can break even? And that is something that is hard to judge. Because when two people can make a game, sell it for $10, and become inhumanely profitable, or one man makes a game that becomes what started the independent game developer revolution from 2010, it's kind of weird to think about, okay, I have to spend $30 million to pay for a 100-person company to make this game. It's this weird sort of juxtaposition of what sells a game to people. Is it something they're familiar with? Well, certainly we can see that in the evolution of retro games, or the resurgence of games that use retro ideas, specifically visuals. Nostalgia can sell games out the asshole. Is it they're using something that's popular or in vogue? Zombies for a while was a really big system seller, although people will admit that they don't like zombies anymore. I don't care. I love zombies because there is a pinnacle of zombie work for me. Max Brooks's World War Z. There is nothing better in the zombie universe that will ever eclipse that work, in my opinion, yet. So I don't care. Just make some zombies in it. I'll probably end up playing it. But where do we go? What's the balance that we have to find? I don't know. I haven't worked on a game yet. I'm speculating based on all the stuff I know and all the information I have of how this industry has changed so much. I've been reading Masters of Doom, which is basically the story of Romero and Carmack, how they came together and then split. And back in 1997, that's not 16 years ago. That's pretty short, all things considered. They were making Quake with like a 9-person team. 9 people. That's the size of most independent studios. And that was a big-time game. That was what the equivalent of something like, Call of Duty would be nowadays. It was a first-person shooter with a story mode, but really focused on multiplayer. And now, Grand Theft Auto, or Rockstar came out and said over 1,000 people worked on the game. Assassin's Creed 4 has over 1,000 people working on the game. Now, granted, this has been over 5 years for Grand Theft Auto, and this has been for current gen, next gen, PC, and Wii U, which is in this weird middle space. Kind of unfortunate for Nintendo, to be honest. And that is that just sort of hurts to think about, to be honest. When you consider the Ubisoft empire, which spans continents, Asia, Europe, North and South America. I think there's actually a couple in Africa. There's like 1 or 2 in Africa to boot. So, where do we go with the budget? Where do we go with the price point? I think that Um, if a larger company could learn to maybe pare down and let a designer come up with an idea, talk to and get a team of like 30 people together or so, and release a $20 game, and do this with like a couple teams. If your company is 150 people, and set a couple teams together and just let them go and let them have fun, and get a big, large development studio budget and team and quality of work behind a cheap and affordable title. Hell yeah, dude. We saw that Ubisoft has at least approached this idea with Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Although that was taking existing assets and existing ideas and just adding a really cool coat of paint and adding a pretty wacky approach, but it's smart. It allows them to get out a really fun, easy to play, easy to pick up game, as long as the team gets to be innovative and gets to create what they feel like is awesome. Hey, if you have that talent, if you have an engine, if you have the ability to do it, go for it. I'd love to see what would happen if Blizzard were to set aside a team of people and create a game. I'm looking at you, Hearthstone. Or if, I don't know, if Valve were to actually get off their asses and make another fucking game. If you could let a small team do that, oh wait, that's every single game that Valve's purchased. Maybe it isn't that good. But, hey, with this generation coming up, with more really famous developers, or at least teams of developers from studios breaking off to do their own smaller projects, we're going to see that, in theory. I just hope that larger companies can pick up on this and follow that Ubisoft example. I would love to see a $20 title from BioWare or Epic or from Square Enix or somebody who can make this sort of thing work. But that's what I have to say about that. Budgets in games is a very big issue that needs to be pared down, or we might end up busting. But thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I shall see all of you